Thank you for tuning in to Splat Attack. This episode, we will be talking about the 30th anniversary of Nickelodeon GUTS, as well as one specific episode with special guest Kristin Kerkvliet Ross. As always, if you are watching on YouTube, please hit the like button and subscribe. If you are listening on a podcast app, please leave us a review where possible. I know it's a broken record at this point, but it truly is a small thing on your part that makes a profound impact for our channel. If you enjoy our content, head over to our Patreon. We have bonus episodes, live streams, and we just released a special alternate episode. Head over to patreon.com/splatattack. Now, head into the Extreme Arena and spill your guts.
Welcome to the Extreme Arena, formerly at Universal Studios Florida. This is the anniversary of Nickelodeon GUTS, the action sports show that made you sweat. Let's meet today's players. In the paralyzing purple, it's Brett Hyperdrive Wilson. In the petrifying pink, it's Alex Nitro Nance. And in the bionic blue, our special guest for the day, Kristin Kerkvliet.
Hello everyone, I'm Mike O Malley. Welcome to Nickelodeon GUTS, the action sports show where kids live out their greatest sports fantasies.
Welcome, Slimesters, for another rousing episode of Splat Attack, where we're taking it back to the Seinfeld past. I'm your gaktastic co-host, Brett.
And I am your slime-tastic co-host, Alex. And Brett, very simple question.
Do I have it?
Yes, do you have it?
Have what? What are you talking about? I left the Diary of Dr. Livingston back in the Shrine of Silver Monkey. That was Kat's artifact, not mine. I was tempted to take it, though.
Oh, man, I'm so excited. I'm so excited about today.
I know. It's about time we finally covered GUTS, and what better opportunity than to cover it for its 30th anniversary. And yes, this is another 30th anniversary episode for those who are wondering, which makes it, I believe, our 6th anniversary episode since we started last year.
And it is our 30th episode.
Whoa! 30th anniversary on 30. It's 30ception. Wild.
Man, I'm excited. And almost every time we've had an episode, it's been one of those instances where either I'm very familiar with it, but I got to familiarize myself with it just to be sure, or it's been one of those I never really got the chance to watch this and I was really looking forward to it. This is the opposite, because I loved GUTS as a kid, and as soon as I was able to get all these on DVD and burn them, no, they are not available. I had to hunt them down and burn them.
They're
myself.
very hard to find. Yeah, we're talking tape trading here.
Yes, but eventually I was able to get all of them and burn them to a DVD, and then it was just put it on the TV and just let it go and introduce Sam to it, and we'd be in the kitchen cooking and we'd hear Mike O Malley in the living room, and it's still just as cool now as it was in the 90s, and I love this show. I'm not a sports person at all. I can't watch sports. I get bored with it, which I think is why I like GUTS so much, because they take everything to the extreme degree.
Extreme!
Yeah,
you know it. Jacked up on 90s extreme goodness. And Mike O Malley is the perfect guy, the perfect hype man for this show, because he knows how to bring it.
All right, so a couple hurdles to knock down, and now we got a mountain to climb, folks. The Aggro Crag, the big challenge coming up. Our players haven't seen anything like what they're going to see coming up next. Stick around, the Crag.
It's quite a departure from his Get the Picture hosting, because he was very reserved for that show until this came around.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Get the Picture, the game show where an eye for detail can make you a winner. But before we get started, let's meet today's players. Wearing the bionic blue from Claremont Jr., Kristen Kerkvliet. Aaliyah, you love singing, acting, and you've been playing the piano for 8 years.
Yes, that's right.
How do you keep up the practicing? We got the cargo net, then the tightrope walk, then into the free fall bag right in here, and then over to the elastic jungle. Look at these things. They're not for wrapping newspapers. And then up the wall climb right here, and then over into our pool to say hello to our resident mermaid here on Guts, Joe. Hi, Joe. But before they get to Joe, they got to hear the rules from Mo. Mo?
Thank you, Mike O. Silly.
And if I recall, I think this also was in the Slimed book, but I think, and if anybody knows different, please correct me. But to my understanding, he was so laid back on Get the Picture that they were considering not letting him stay. They were going to let him go if he didn't punch up the energy, and through the second half, I think season 2, he really started to kick the energy up, even in the big time.
Power Surge! Power Surge! Power Surge! Got you again, Mark. How you doing?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I think also he was on, this may be pure speculation, but I think he was on some drugs during season 1, and then they told him to lay off, and or else you're going to lose your job, and I believe he did, and then kicking up the energy for a kid show, which now, because he was received so much better for season 2, and although Get the Picture didn't stick around, they moved on to this show, and a 90s Nick legend was born.
Indeed, yeah, this is like in a pocket of Nick game shows that were just firing on all cylinders back at the time. You know, you got Guts, Nick Arcade, of course, Family Double Dare, and Legend of the Hidden Temple all airing, you know, around the same time. So there was just tons of action kid content available to feast your eyes upon, and it's amazing. It still has aged quite well.
And for this episode, just like we do every anniversary episode, we wanted to get people from the show. But as much as I really wanted to get Mike O Malley and Moira Quirk, it was just very difficult. And Mike is still high in demand. I mean, he's got his show that he's doing on HBO. I think it's HBO. And Moira Quirk has continued to move forward. It seems like she doesn't really want to do a whole lot of reminiscing with Guts, because it seems like it's mostly a lot of the same questions from fans, which I completely understand. And she has gone on to and answered a lot of questions. She even had her own website and answered some of the more common questions that she gets on there. So unfortunately, we don't have Mike O Malley and Moira Quirk for this episode, as much as it pains me because it's one of my favorite game shows. But we do have a blue contestant from the show, but we will get to her at the second half of our show. So we do have someone, but prior to that, we're gonna give you all a bit of a history lesson with Guts.
Let's give a rundown for all our Slimesters listening or watching at home about what Guts is, like just a formal breakdown, because some of you may be old enough to remember, and other people who are in the 90s nostalgia community may be a little bit too young to remember this show. So whether you need a fresh reminder or to be introduced to this for the first time, we got you covered with all the information here. So starting off, we're going to go with the original run of Guts, because there's actually a few different iterations of it that we'll touch upon. But the original Guts, simply known as Nickelodeon Guts, aired September 9th, 1992, and its production dates last from August 12th, 92 to August 15th, 1995. And it lasted for 3 seasons, this particular iteration, and it was created by Albie Hecht, Scott Fishman, and Byron Taylor. And you may recognize Byron Taylor from a few other Nick game shows that we've already covered on this podcast.
Yep.
Do you, Alex?
Didn't he do like the Think Fast and Make the Grade and
Double Dare as well?
Double
he did
Dare
all the
and Finders Keepers.
Yep, he all had a hand in all of those. So it's nice to see some familiar faces that helped create shows that shaped our childhood.
And speaking of the theme song, while I'm thinking about it, it is the only theme song. First of all, the theme song is awesome. It's one of my favorites.
It really amps you up.
Yes, it does. And it is the only theme song that has ever got me in trouble.
Really?
Of all theme songs because my mom was at barbershop or beauty salon and getting her hair done by my aunt, who is a beautician, and it was just us. There was nobody else in the place, just them and I was playing with some toys over in the corner, and I got the theme song stuck in my head. And there is a rap. There is a version where you can hear the entire theme song.
It takes a certain kind of person to get the body working to the level of precision that's needed to be risen to the top. Do you have it? It takes a certain kind of something to keep the heart pumping, something everybody needs to achieve to succeed. You'll need a lot. Do you have it?
But let's face it, the one thing we all remembered the most is...
Do you have it?
Do you have it?
I kept saying guts, and I'm playing. I didn't say anything else. I didn't say the "do you have it" or the rhythm or anything. Just guts, and I was playing with action figures, and I was beating them up or doing something with it. And when I got home, or in the car and started going home, my mom starts going, "But I really wish you'd stop talking about guts. That's disgusting."
If she only knew what you actually meant.
And I tried to explain to her, no, it's a game show. It's a sports game show. You know, kind of, you got to have guts to. But I was not eloquent enough to put it down that way. The only thing I could come up with was, it's a Nickelodeon show. I don't care. It's gross. Like, no, that's not what I meant. But now I can't. Now it's too late. I can't rebuttal. But
I mean, Alex's mom, if you're listening or watching this episode right now, this is what he meant 30 years later. I hope you forgive him by then.
I guarantee you she's forgotten it by now. But
Probably
yeah,
for the better.
only theme song that ever got me into any kind of trouble, and of all things.
Not even the Salute Your Shorts one, where it's like...
No!
It makes me wanna fart!
No, even that one never got me in trouble. It's the only one.
Huh.
But anyway.
That's a fun little side story. I mean, we could go into our own personal memories and ties to Guts if you want before I continue giving the breakdown.
Sure, go ahead. What have you got?
I mean, I'm mostly a Legends kid, but I did watch Guts when it was on because, anything on Nickelodeon, I was like, yeah, I love this. Give me more. And of course, I fell into the whole trap of being like imagining myself climbing the Aggro Crag and just taking in all the glory of lifting that massive hunk of glowing green rock above my head and showing it off to all my kids and having it as a nightlight in my bedroom and just being like the coolest kid on the block. Nothing really materialized out of that, but my appreciation of Guts has definitely shaped what kind of sports I got into in amongst the few sports that I've actually participated in growing up, because I'm not really a sports person. I'm more of like a creative person that likes art and music and stuff like that. But I did do track and I did like bike riding a lot. And I know there's like a few bike riding themed and running themed events in Guts. And those were like my inspiration to like, be competitive and do better and see if I can win any medals or trophies. So that had a hand in me getting into like cross country and track growing up. Basketball, not so much, even though I do enjoy a game of hoops and slamma-jamma. I didn't understand how the game worked. I just like shooting the hoops. I didn't actually like moving around the court and passing the people. And I wasn't that great at it in gym class, but I was really good at dodgeball, and I learned a few techniques from like that free kick event where you have to like get the soccer balls away from you. So I think it subconsciously just influenced my enthusiasm towards gym class and like extracurricular activities growing up. Other than that, I can't really say too much in terms of how it's affected me now, but I love singing the theme song and I love like getting into that competitive spirit whenever I watch the show. It's highly infectious.
And I want to take all of you 90s kids back to the 90s and remember how impactful sports was in general to our age. Because it seems like the sports is far less impactful for kids now, but back in the 90s, Michael Jordan was huge.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he had Hanes commercials. He had commercials for hot dogs.
McDonald's.
And then there was Nerf. I mean, you didn't have just Nerf guns. I mean, you had Nerf footballs and basketball sets, and then of course Space Jam, which was the ultimate in the 90s. But I mean, there were constant video games that were all about sports, and they were constantly thrown at you. I mean, NBA Jam on Sega Genesis, and
that's a big one.
all the different Ken Griffey Jr. baseball games, and I mean, sports was everywhere. And I, very similar to Brett, but a little different. But yes, I'm a very creative person. I love art. I love music. I love theater. But I also enjoyed doing sports. But it was very different. I don't like competitive sports. I just want to play just to play. Now, yes, I will compete and I will try to have fun, but there were, especially when we were kids, there was a lot of people who would just, I'm in it for the win, and they would get mad at something. Either I'm mad because I'm losing, or I'm mad because you're not doing well, or then you get those who are doing well, and then they brag and
Yeah, lots of
I don't
ego
want
there.
that. That's not fun.
Yeah.
That's not fun. I just want to have fun.
I'm with you wholeheartedly, and that's probably why I didn't go further to, win more accolades during my, brushes with track and similar sports, is because I don't think for some people competition is great, but for me it doesn't really do anything. I don't need to prove to people that I only know for those events that I'm better than them. I just want to have fun experiencing, like, just playing it, as you said, without really having anything attached to it. And I think a lot of people have forgotten how to enjoy sports in that way. Like everything, especially if like shows like Ninja Warrior and Wipeout and Titan games these days. I mean, it's all about the competition and crushing, your opponent, instead of, the heart of having fun, going through all these obstacles and sportsmanship. And, we'll touch upon that a little bit later too, when we talk more in depth with our guests about like some of the key components of Guts that really made it relatable for all kids, not just sports related kids growing up.
Yeah. And when this show came out, when Guts came out, going back and thinking about it, because I had mentioned it in a previous episode, but I like Legends. I really enjoyed it. And I love Double Dare. I love Nick Arcade. Nick Arcade was one of my favorites.
Me too.
But I like Guts. I like Guts more than Legends, just because it looks like it would be a lot of fun to do the entire thing. Legends was an elimination round every single time, and plus I'd be terrified to go through the temple and get a temple card, which again we mentioned last episode. But I remember watching the show, and it was one of the very few 90s Nick shows that my brother and I would really sit and watch together, because he was a huge sports nut. He's always watching basketball in the 90s, and it was one of those that we could just sit and enjoy, just the two of us. But I loved Guts, and the amount of times I'd go to school and hear other kids in school get so, I don't want to say jealous, but wishful thinking of, I would love to go on that show and get that Aggro Crag.
It's a lot harder than it looks, I assure you. Continuing on with our breakdown of the original Guts, the series was actually filmed at Soundstage 21 at Universal Studios Florida on a set dubbed the Extreme Arena, which was not part of the Nickelodeon Studios complex, but was actually rented by them, and that's taken from their Guts Wiki fandom page. In addition, there are also 3 contestants, each in a colored sport gear, outfit, either blue, red, or purple. They would compete against each other in various events that put a spin on sports, often utilizing bungee cords, wave pools, or track and field events with pitfalls and perils outlining the arena. The players would endure 4 rounds of athletic assault involving a plethora of sport-based challenges, in which the point values of 300, 200, and 100 were awarded to first, second, and third place respectively. At the end of this gauntlet stood the mother of all equalizers in this arena, the Aggro Crag. A 28 feet behemoth standing boldly in the way between the contestants and victory. This beast has a slew of hazards ready to burst at the players during their ascent to the top, while they hit cleverly placed checkpoint actuators along the way. Point values actually skyrocket to 725, 550, and 375 for first, second, and third place, meaning there's absolutely no chance they'd be a tie at the end of this exhausting ordeal, even if there were a combination of players ending the previous 4 events in a tie, which did happen on rare occasion. To match the show's American Gladiators feeling while mixing in a grading system akin to the Olympics, a host and ref were brought in to both connect with and hype up the audience during each event of the show. We all know and love them as Mike O Malley and Moira Quirk, a dynamic duo whose banter and reporting will keep young viewers coming back for more every episode. If you want more information on Guts in particular, you can refer to this Ringer article that we have shown on the screen of our YouTube episode for Guts behind-the-scenes content and development. So some notable features of Guts are the debut of the Aggro Crag for Seasons 1 and 2, and it being upgraded to the Mega Crag in Season 3. There's also the Spill Your Guts rundown list that they introduce usually in between each event leading up to the Aggro Crag for each player, where they do like name, age, hobbies, and what guts equals to a value that kid most embodies when they're competing. There's also a special type of Guts episode called Guts All-Stars, where perfect game winners compete against each other to win up to $2,000 of scholarship fund. And this features a rundown of 8 events instead of 4, and also a unique variation of the Aggro Crag trophy up for grabs, which you can see here. Alex, do you have any memories of Guts All-Stars or anything else you'd like to note about the original run of Guts?
Just because it was mentioned so quickly, because there's so much to talk about, but the one thing that is my absolute favorite is Mike and Mo. And the amount of times where he just goes bonkers, and then it cuts back to Mo! Take a nap. I love Mo. I love them both. They're so fun.
Yeah, I really love their banter. It's a highlight to me, too. And she did tell me to do that, too, when I was shit-talking Guts during episode 21 when we reviewed the SNES game. So, oops. I can't in good conscience give this anything higher than a splat-tastrophe, so F this game.
Take a nap.
I mean, it's hard to control, but what else can I say? I mean, that was just my experience.
Man. It's so fun. It's so fun. But yeah, the first 3 seasons of Guts, it was a staple of my childhood, and I was jealous because these games look like so much fun, because they took all simple premise games and kicked it up to, like I said, the extreme degree with the use of the bungee cord a lot of times, and sometimes even punishingly.
In impractical ways. Let me say it again. In impracticable. I can't say that word. Impractical ways.
Because one of the games we're going to talk about later, but there was another one where they're having to defend goals.
Oh, yeah, fumble. I hate that one.
Yeah. Because
it's like
football would come down.
Yeah.
And they're attached to each other. Yeah, they're attached to each other with bungee cords. So if you would pull one direction, it would pull the other player closer towards you, and they would miss the football that they're trying to get. Oh, yep. That one is menacing.
Believe it or not, they use that game or a variation of it in Dwayne Johnson's Titan games on Peacock TV, where they're both.
Oh, really?
The competitors are both like attached to one cord, and they have to go to their end of the arena to like essentially grab a bunch of barrels and throw them over the edge of the arena so that they can score points. And it's just like,
wow,
such a struggle to watch. I feel bad for the players going through that. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking when they're designing that, other than let's really push them to their limit of pain. Ugh, no thanks.
But the All-Star episode, I didn't remember seeing it as a kid. I'm sure I did. I just had no memory of watching it until I had found it again as an adult.
It was on a VHS tape, which most people remember it from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I also remember it specifically due to the fact that the earlier seasons of Guts had like this little mascot that was like a yellow kind of stick figure who would do different events, and you'd see his emblem on the side of the event as Mike was introducing it. So they actually got like a actual mascot costume of someone dancing around the Extreme Arena, just, you know, going along to the Do You Have It Guts song. And like some people are afraid, some people are confused, some people are excited. What's going on here? We don't know, because this is the first and only time we actually see him.
I mean, we've got, you know, Chucky and Ren and Stimpy and Tommy. Where's the Guts figure? I want to see him go to a Nick Takes Over Your School. And then everyone just go, what is that?
Yeah. It might be a little menacing too, just to see that guy like walking down the hall, bursting through like the gym doors and like throwing a bunch of dodgeballs at you. Like, he has no character to him. He's just like a figure, like a symbol.
Just have him stand outside of a used car lot sales parking lot and just flap his arms.
There you go.
That's what he's doing now.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how he can make himself most useful. Good times. That trophy though looked pretty baller, because it wasn't just like the normal like cutout of the green rock. It actually was like this weird mini green iceberg on top of this really tall Guts podium with like a mini golden trophy underneath. So man, if you happen to win that trophy, you're like set for life. You got like the trophy to end all trophies for kids television.
Aggro Crag, legend.
Yeah, Aggro Crag is just as legendary as the Legend Temple, I would say. And the kids actually won scholarship prizes and also engraved plates instead of medals. So I thought that was an interesting variation for that special. All right, well, that's pretty much what covers regular Guts, but we're going to amp it up a notch to Global Guts for season 4, because this aired in July 12th, 1995, and this time we're going international with kids all over the world from various countries, such as like Mexico, Russia, Israel, Spain, Portugal, UK, among many, many others. And I thought it was really interesting that they took this approach to Guts, because it seems more like, you know, the Olympics at this point, where they have like the medal tracker that Mo, you know, shows on the episodes to start out with. And then they also have like the Spill Your Guts, amping it up with like videos of the kids practicing various like athletic abilities while having a translator, you know, speak for them. And even the Global Guts logo and medals also changed too. It's like a big metallic like globe with like the Guts emblem imbued into it, like a ring of Saturn. It's pretty neat. And of course, you know, because they're all about that you know, Guts image, Mike O Malley is wearing like a hockey jersey with the Global Guts logo as well, and he's as loud as ever this time.
Oh gosh.
All right, folks, we got to clean up the Extreme Arena because we got 2 more events to go. We got a perfect score on the line. We got Invisible Boat, and we got Pick to Pick. You stick around.
The thing I really liked about Global Guts, and this fits so perfect with Nickelodeon at the time, because they're all about unity for kids. Because they were all about wanting to help kids realize they have a voice, with like the Kids Pick the President and of course Kids Toys Awards, but and then also get involved with your community with the Big Help. And I have never seen a kids competitive game show become global. And it wasn't about which team is better, which again we talk about later, but it was just, let's expand it and let's show just as much support to the other countries as we do our own in terms of this game show. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, kind of like how Are You Afraid of the Dark has its, you know, colorful cast of characters all representing different cultures. Guts is very much an assimilator of all those cultures as well. And I thought it was a really nice touch that after during the award ceremony, they play the national anthem of the first place winner.
You're hearing the Mexican national anthem because Fernando the Hawk is going to take home a glowing piece of our radical rock to show everyone back home in Mexico Aggro that he came to Global Guts and he won.
But they also have all 3 contestants do a victory lap around the track and fields, circling the Extreme Arena with their nation's flags flowing behind them like capes. Like, it just really, even if you're not from those countries or you don't know anything about those cultures, it really gives you a sense of pride and honor and just like that unity feeling they're going for, being a part of like these group of kids from all sorts of lands just coming together to compete and most importantly, have fun.
That's right.
I'm about to shed a tear right now. It's beautiful. If only the rest of the world could think that way in 2022. We kind of went the opposite direction since COVID. Ugh.
Yeah. Well, even before COVID, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. But anyways,
I miss Nickelodeon. I miss 90s Nickelodeon. They really were all about they were about the kids and not about SpongeBob.
Money. Yeah. We're kind of filling that void now, doing the best we can to preserve the slime-filled past. But it's the best we can do. And of course, there's streaming services and DVDs that help keep the shows alive and the communities active. So it really comes down to you Slimesters to just really celebrate and pass on this special time in Nickelodeon history that it really touched our hearts and engaged our minds like no other period of television history. And we'd love to, extend that and preserve that as long as possible. But getting off my soapbox for a moment and back into Global Guts, here are some notable features that you may notice that are a little bit different than the previous Guts iterations. So, of course, we have the Super Aggro Crag, which is like a hybrid of both the regular Aggro Crag and the Mega Crag that features more dangerous, quote-unquote, obstacles such as, like, ice fall, you got big boulders, you got this weird, like, jutting out cliff that you have to climb backwards to get up. It's pretty wild. You also have, players from all around the world, as we mentioned. We also have revamped events. Many of them are bigger and badder than ever. Particularly ones that come to mind are like Zero G, Peak to Peak. There's this one ski down one where they actually built like a mini mountain so that players can go down them. And I think it's either skiing or like bobsledding, something to that extent where it's like snow themed. And I just felt, wow, when I saw that, they're really going for it. They're really like taking this to the next level, and I'm here for that. So yeah, that's Global Guts. Ran for 1 season, and it was just as great as the previous 3. Can't complain here. However, what we're going to introduce next, you might be shaking your head in terms of like, why is this a thing? And I think this is, oddly enough, this showed up before like, our culture became way too saturated with reboots because of nostalgia. But we do have to mention it for posterity's sake. So we're just going to briefly mention it, whether you want to check that out on your own or not. So there's this version of Guts called My Family's Got Guts. And it aired from September 15th to 27th, 2008. That's how popular it was. It only lasted a month, not even. But somehow overseas, like in the UK and Australia, it lasted for 2 seasons. So apparently something clicked with their audiences that didn't work for us in the US. Yeah, it aired briefly, I believe on Nick Gas, and then it got pulled shortly after they went defunct. It very much shakes up like the original formula, almost to the point where it's hard to connect the two together. So you have the host Ben Lyons in place of Mike O Malley, and then the ref, who's an Australian star, Asha Curtin, as the kind of doing the dynamic duo thing there. And then there's also a green team added, which I love the color green. That's great, but instead of like 3 separate kids competing, of course you have 2 teams of 4. Instead of, that typical lineup. And they also have silver helmets instead of yellow. There's a different Radical Rock trophy. It doesn't really look quite the same, or it doesn't have that same appeal. There's also different competition structure, such as like a preliminary, semifinal, and, bracket type structure, where there's also an Aggro Bowl tiered bracket system. It's very convoluted and confusing, and it's very much a turnoff. It's like, okay, we're gonna take everything that worked before, throw it out, and then we're just gonna make it more complicated, because more complicated means better, right? Progress. and that is this. It does not translate very well, and I don't recommend it. It's got some interesting obstacles, but they're way more complex to the point where it more closely resembles shows like Ninja Warrior or Wipeout than actual Guts events. Like, there's very little connection there. Of course, you got the sleek, modernized graphics for the logo, which doesn't quite have the same appeal as like the marker writing with the yellow Guts font over it. It more resembles like a mountain with, extra text crammed into it. And then there's also a point value used to gauge head start time on Aggro Crag instead of determining the winner. So it's a slightly different dynamic, and I tried to watch a couple episodes in preparation for this one. I found it very difficult to get through just because there's too much shell shock that I experienced, or PTSD from just all the changes happening at me. Maybe Guts whiplash, if you want to call it that.
I didn't even know this was a thing. I was well out of the loop when My Family's Got Guts became a thing, because, again, this was 2008.
Yeah.
So yeah, out of my...
Both of us, yeah.
And I've heard through others that it wasn't good, so I never even bothered to go take a look.
It's all about asking that quintessential question: do you have it?
Guts.
Speaking of having it, there's actually some famous contestants that have also made appearances on Guts, in addition to other types of sports celebrities. So just to name a few, we've noted that AJ Mean McLean of Backstreet Boys was a contestant in 1992. He competed against Amanda the Accelerator Bulger and Jamie the Jackal Mendelsohn. He ended up winning the silver medal, and he was on the blue team. And he won first in only the slam dunk event. So he's really good at shooting hoops with a bungee cord attached to him. In addition, we have Anna Roadrunner Morris, who's actually a Hollywood stuntwoman now, and she competed in 1993 against Lawless Lauren Sheely and Paul Running Man Batson. She ended up winning the gold medal, and she was on the red team. And she happened to sprain her knee during the basic training event, which we might have touched upon it before, but some of these events get really intense to the point where we see some nasty spills. I know I've seen my share through like the Tornado Run one, or like the biking variant where they have to go over some ramps or like some uneven ground, and oof, I feel for those kids when they take a dive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We also have Mike Flea Vogel, who turned out to be an actor from 1994's season. He ended up winning the silver medal and was on the blue team, and also won the Aggro Crag event, pushing him up from third to second by the end of the game. So if that means anything to you, that's pretty cool. In addition, we also have famous guests who kind of played off of Mike and Mo's banter in between the events, including Wendy Bruce, who is the only guest in 1992, Lawrence Taylor, who is the only guest in 93 and also in the All-Stars VHS tape, Evander Holyfield from 1994, Charlie Ward from 94, Adam Oates from 94, Piccabo Street in 94, Dominique Wilkins in 1994, and get this.
And so, Katie Soft Piety, in purple with 875 points, will be getting the bronze medal. Yes, Mo?
Mike, I can't find the medals anywhere.
What do you mean you can't find the medals? They're where they always should be.
No, Mike, I've looked for them.
E.T.'s got the medals.
E.T., the extraterrestrial, who happened to be the only guest in 1995 during the award ceremony of Global Guts. What country is E.T. from? So we did touch upon Mike and Mo before and their involvement with Guts, because they're pretty much the front men and the faces of Guts, aside from the spotters who help out. And they're actually still good friends to this day, though their careers keep them very, very busy, which is why they're not here for this podcast episode. However, aside from her grandfather, Mike is actually the only person who calls her Mo, which I find that interesting. And I guess it's really just the 90s Nickelodeon inside information kind of thing, where we only know her as Mo and not Moira, formerly unlike like her other work she's done, mainly with like voice acting outside of that. Aside from that, Mike has continued to pursue acting to this day, with over 52 credits under his belt according to IMDb, and most notably acting as the characters Bert Hummel from Glee, which lasted from 2009 to 2015, Stuart Daniels from My Name is Earl from 2006 to 2009, and Jimmy Hughes from Yes Dear, 2000-2006. As for Moira, she's also had an extensive acting career and is still active today, known for her most notable roles as Brit and additional voices on the 2000s Nicktoon, My Life as a Teenage Robot, which aired from 2002 to 2006. She's also voiced the emu rehabilitation worker, Monkey, and Jane in various Wild Thornberrys episodes, and Carlia, from the video game Elder Scrolls V Oblivion, which I know was a massive game when it came out. And she also, did a role called Hannah Her, I believe that's right, from How to Train Your Dragon Netflix series, Dragon's Rescue Riders. So she's pretty active in, Hollywood doing various voiceover work. When she's not focused on her passion for cartoon and video game voice acting, she's an active participant in various cruise sound departments and has narrated a children's audiobook for Audible called Fossil Hunter, How Mary Anning Changed the Science of Prehistoric Life.
And any opportunity I have to mention James Bond in any of my episodes, I'm going to do that, because she also did an audiobook. There were 3 people who were doing the audio for it, reading different parts, and she read all of the female roles for the audiobook of The Man with the Golden Gun.
Oh, wow. That's pretty impressive. She would make like a great Q, wouldn't she? Moira Quirk.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it lends itself to it. How could we also forget that both Mike O Malley and Moira have both been contestants on Figure It Out numerous times. That's like a great melting pot of a game show from celebrities all across Nickelodeon history. So I'm sure if you haven't seen those yet, you should definitely watch a few episodes of Figure It Out. Also, Mike O Malley has hosted the Super Toy Run contest in the early 1990s. So I think this predates Guts, if I remember correctly. But he kind of had the same commentator vibe going on when, the kids cross the finish line and they talk about their experience of, racing against the clock to grab as many toys as possible.
When he hosted it, it may have been in the interim between Get the Picture and Guts while they were getting the show going. Total guess, but that just makes sense to me logically.
No, it does make sense because Super Toy Run was most popular from 1990 to 1992, and that's when they aired a lot of the commercials. So, yeah, I guess he was, getting his feet wet as a sports commentator when segueing from Get the Picture through those contests. So that pretty much sums up our little bit of history of Guts and, Mike and Mo. So if you're curious about, the rerun history of Guts after it finished its run on Nickelodeon, they continued to air on Nick from 1995 to 1995 as reruns. And then they hopped over to Nick Gas with a second wind, stretching from 1999 to 2007, which was the channel's death date, unfortunately. Since then, it's been rarely spotted during Nick's The 90s Are All That segments, programming blocks in 2011 and on. It also made rare appearances on the Splat in 2015, which is kind of like an offshoot nostalgia Nickelodeon channel that, it had its brief time in the sun, but most of these channels no longer exist. I'd say the best way you can find it today are either trading VHS tapes with your friends in the 90s Nick community, or you could actually find a few episodes on Paramount Plus.
There's a lot of episodes for Guts on Paramount Plus. I don't think they have all of them, but they've definitely enough to be worth your time.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think there's at least over 200 episodes of Guts, so you're going to find at least a few that you can enjoy. Whether you can find the whole compendium of them on a streaming service, or elsewhere.
Yeah, the majority of it is there, so there's quite a bit of the history saved.
Finally, for those who watch modern Nickelodeon or just want to catch a glimpse for a little treat, there's actually an episode of Sanjay and Craig from 2016 called Guts Busters, where Mike and Mo reprise their roles for an animated imagining of the Extreme Arena. And I actually find it quite amusing, even if you Slimesters aren't into newer Nick shows. because it reminds me a lot of the Loud House Legends of the Hidden Temple crossover that also happened around 2016, 2017. And I think that was just playing to like the parents of the kids who were watching those shows at the time. Something for them to enjoy, while the kids who, it flies over their head, they can still enjoy their characters that they've become attached to. And of course, no Guts anniversary special would be complete without mentioning the merchandise, because there's quite a bit. Maybe not so official, but it does exist out there. So Alex and I have compiled like a short list of some of the Guts merchandise that we spotted in the wild, if you're interested in, finding some for yourself. Sad to say, I don't actually have my own Guts shirt. This is just a wannabe get up to embrace the spirit. Maybe when I have the money to get a few shirts for every Nickelodeon show we cover, I'll do that. But for the Guts merchandise we've found, we've seen, shirts of the logo. We've seen hats with the logo. We've seen a Nickbox drawstring gym bag that you can wear on your back. Of course, I did some art for one of my friends that will show on the screen here. Her name's Endless Alexandra. She's an avid 90 Nick fan, and you can see her as the red team holding up a piece of the glowing rock, because she is a big Guts fan too. We also have the Aggro Crag trophy replicas. Oh man, there's so many variations out there, both homemade, 3D printed, some of the actual ones, miniatures. I mean, you got the Nickbox keychain that looks like it. You've also got like the LED little lamp nightlight thing that they released recently. You also have, as we mentioned, the notorious Guts SNES game, which I guess counts as merch, played at your own risk, because obviously I didn't have a good experience with it, but you may have a little bit better time playing it. So I think that covers it before. I think that covers it before we get into the nitty gritty of what it's like to be on Guts with our esteemed guest today. Alex, do you have any final thoughts before our commercial break?
No, I think we've pretty well covered most of the show. Yes, there is some you can find on YouTube, and there is some on Dailymotion, but your best bet is to check out Paramount Plus if you really want to check this show out and relive it again. Because, again, being in the social media groups, I always see somebody who's always asking, where can I watch these shows? Whatever show it is. And most of the time, it's going to be Paramount Plus. But there is a few underlying shows that are skimmed over quite a bit, which we've addressed a few of those already. But the big ones like this one, Paramount Plus. So this episode is not sponsored by Paramount Plus.
No.
They should.
I mean, that would help us with our production budget. Maybe we can build our own Extreme Arena if Paramount Plus gives us $1 million to endorse their streaming service. I don't know.
That's right.
You never know where Splat Attack's going to go, just like Nickelodeon went. But,
that's right.
Yeah, we can dream. Do you have it? Money.
Yes, do you have it? Dough.
No. It actually reminds me of a parody shirt I saw during the Guts merchandise researching I was doing that says, instead of "Do you have it Guts? Do you have it Butts?" And it's in the same logo style too.
I'd wear that one.
I would too, just to see who would like pay attention to it at a bar.
All right.
But yeah, enough of our banter. Let's go to the locker room and take our commercial break before we get back into the action with our mystery guest.
All right, we've heard all about Guts. When we come back, we get to hear from the Cobra herself, so stick around.
Nickelodeon Guts will return in a moment. Back to school. Back to school with Snick. Tonight, sit in on a class with the Space Cases and learn why they're called the Space Cases. Then, it's a lesson in magic on a brand new episode of Alex Back. Next, hang out with the class clowns of All That, featuring musical guest, the Twins. Then, board the school bus and head on home to the adventures of Pete and Pete. So sneak back to school tonight at 8, 7 Central on Nickelodeon.
Brett, I see a little digital figuration going on here.
Yeah, it's a little pixelated on the screen, but I think, I'm pressing some buttons on my gamepad, and it looks like something's coming up on the game screen. Who can it be, Alex? Is that who I think it is?
I don't know. Who's coming through here?
It's none other than Phil Moore!
What if our Nick Arcade 30th anniversary episode never happened? This very thing almost happened. Due to a schedule conflict, we were afraid that we wouldn't get to talk with Phil Moore, so we recorded a backup episode just in case. Some aspects of the alternate episode are similar, others are vastly different. You will only find this alternate version exclusively on our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/splatattack to step into an alternate dimension.
And now back to Nickelodeon Guts.
And we're back for more Splat Attack action on this Guts anniversary special. We also have to talk, we've talked a lot about the history of Guts and, the timeline that we've been on, but I think it'd be more interesting to, hear from the player's mouth what the experience was to be on that show. So let's pull one of the contestants aside before they jump into that wave pool behind me for their next event and say hi to Kristin Kerkvliet, who was on an early episode of Guts.
On your mark, get set.
Trailing Amanda by 300 points. She needs a powerful jump.
Hello, everyone.
And I want to give a big shout out to Viva90s. That he was the Instagrammer who had actually told us about Kristen being on both Legends of the Hidden Temple and on Guts. So hopefully we'll have Kristen on again to talk about her Legends episode. But thank you so much for reaching out to us and letting us know that. And thank you, Kristen, for taking a very random call and agreeing to be here. So thank you. I'm really excited to pick your brain about Guts.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So before we get into the episode itself, what motivated you to want to try out for Guts?
Well, I really love competition. And I used to, I'm very athletic, played a lot of sports growing up. But who wouldn't want to be on TV, right? And it's just a really fun show. But yeah, even when I was in grade school, we'd have this obstacle course every year, and I would plan and try to just train for it and be as quick as I can. I have videotapes of just being so serious while I'm doing the obstacle course. So this is just right up my alley.
And were you on Legends first or Guts first?
I was on Guts first.
I'm assuming you watched it before you went and auditioned.
Yeah. The crazy thing is, our family lived in Wisconsin until I was 11, and then we moved to Florida, and so we never watched Nickelodeon. We didn't have it on our TV station, and so I moved to Florida, and that's when I was introduced to Nickelodeon and start watching the shows. So it was really neat to jump right into it.
Yeah, fresh off the boat, you just jump into the action.
What do you remember do you remember anything about the auditions? Because it's been quite a while.
I was talking with my mom trying to remember. I really have blended the Legends and the Guts audition. I can tell you, my mom saw an advertisement in the newspaper and the one ads for tryouts for Guts. And so that's how we learned about it. I can tell you that I was barely heavy enough to be on Guts. I almost wasn't able to be on it because I was too light for the bungee cord activities. So I remember trying to gain weight until my episode so that I could actually make sure I was heavy enough to be a contestant. But I don't remember specifically about the Guts tryout.
So for those who don't know, Kristen was on season 2, episode 11, which was Kristen versus Adrian versus Amanda. And it aired on October 10th, 1993. It was the 58th episode of Guts overall, too. And one of the few episodes that featured all female contestants. So I believe the events were bullseye, free kick, invisible boat, and the longest yard. Do you have any specific memories going through all those events when you were on the show?
Yeah. Well, your background right now with the invisible boat, that was really a tough one for me.
I imagine.
I was stuck, and I had no idea what to do. And then at the end, I was just trying every creative approach I could and threw the paddle, and they're like, they've never seen that before. What do we do?
Yeah, it's like they're just throwing you into the deep end and expect you to go to the shallow end, and while they're timing you.
Right. Like, ah!
Yeah, I don't blame you for feeling that way, because the pool events are just, to let you know, they're like my least favorite events because they just look like a big old struggle. Like I like being in pools, I like swimming in pools, but when I'm doing it leisurely, competitively, it's like, hope you don't drown because there's all this stimuli around you.
The struggle bus was real on every one of the pool events.
It didn't matter if it was like boogie down, invisible boat, the one with like the giant ball that caused the waves. I mean, it's pretty much just make it from point A to point B and somehow just block everything out so you don't go underwater.
Now, I'm assuming that Guts did their filming very similar to Legends of the Hidden Temple, where they would do several episodes a day, and they would do all of one segment a day. Does that track? Is that right?
I remember just being there one day, and I'm blending my memory with Legends. I remember there's other contestants from other shows there, and we would talk about it when we weren't on our show, and we'd have breaks. So yeah, that makes sense. I remember that with Legends more because there's more people, but I'm pretty sure with Guts too.
Did you at all chat with your competitors and just get to know them prior to going out and doing the different events?
Yeah, we did have time to talk. I don't remember getting to know them a ton. We were middle school kids who were about to be on national TV, lots of nerves and just excitement, wanting to do well, and they were our competitors. So, yeah,
sure,
makes sense. I mean, a lot of the game shows pretty much just throw you into the bullpen from the get-go so that they can get the filming done. And that's what we've noticed too in previous Legends episodes we've talked about. What was the experience like meeting Mike O Malley and Moira Quirk for the first time on the show?
Yeah, they're great people. Everyone was, I just remember it being a really positive experience. All the people who were helping would give us tips, and were just really positive people to be around, real encouragers. Yeah.
Glad to hear that Mike isn't too in your face, because he does tend to have a high energy that rivals Phil Moore and Mark Summers.
Yeah, he was great. He was great.
Glad to hear it. Well, since we briefly mentioned the events that you were in earlier, I'm sure everyone wants to know, what was it like to climb up the Aggro Crag?
Oh, that was so much fun. We did get to practice it once before. I think we practiced. Well, I don't remember practicing the water one, but I know we did take a look at the Aggro Crag. I don't remember if we got to do a full-out run or they just kind of explained to us what we were going to do, but it was just a lot of fun. And of course the adrenaline's going, and you're not really sure where the other person is, so it was a good, fun experience.
I was going to say, was it hard to see going up? Because I feel like with all these boulders going on and the actuators you have to hit, and even the glitter snow that's falling on you, I would be very disoriented after the first actuator.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, luckily that didn't affect you, because in your episode, you ended up getting first place in the gold medal.
Right.
And Purple did miss an actuator, and they did have to go back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I do remember there were some hard feelings about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, if she's like, I thought I hit it and I should have won first place. I was there. But yeah, I couldn't see it, and I just trust the people there were making their best, decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's mainly why they have spotters for every event to check that everything's going by the rules. And I know the Aggro Crag in particular, in all of its iterations, it's kind of tricky to maneuver up, and sometimes people like go outside their bounds, or they miss an actuator, or they have to like go back down because they didn't, hit a footing right. It's a very technical event, more so than it looks on TV, because to us watching it at home, it's just like, whoop, just go up the mountain climbing wall, like a climbing gym. But when you're in it, I imagine there's like a lot of strategy you have to think about, maneuvering, lots of dodging obstacles, while also like keeping that focus and determination on point so you can get up there and hit that like flag actuator first.
Right. Yeah, there is.
Yeah. Since you end up winning the Aggro Crag in your events to go with it, we know that you were awarded a piece of the Radical Rock known as the Aggro Crag trophy. Did you end up showing that to like anyone at school or family members? And I would love to hear your experiences about that, because it's a very coveted item in the 90s nostalgia community.
It is. And when I first got it, like it was in my room all the time. And so maybe you know this already, but it was the one that we received was the plug-in lamp. It didn't just, so then it eventually got stored away, but it came out when I went away to college. And I would put it in my window whenever I had news to tell my roommate. It was like my signal, there's something we have to talk about. So that was, it was just a fun memory. Unfortunately, I do not have it anymore, and I'm so sad about that, especially watching the show with my kids. They're like, where is it? I was like, Grandma got rid of it. So
I think it wandered its way into the temple, because things do tend to show up there.
maybe. But I've had people reach out to me on social media wanting to buy it, and man, I wish I could have had it, but it's gone. So
yeah. Gosh, well, at least you got to enjoy the glory while you had it.
Yeah.
Because it is a beautiful trophy that's very symbolic of your triumph over many difficult athletic-oriented events. And to everyone out there who tries to buy one off eBay, shame on you, because you have to earn your trophies. You're not getting
And we know, and most people who are diehard fans of Nickelodeon and especially Guts are already well aware of this. But every single time Guts gets brought up and the trophy gets brought up, there's always someone or a group of people who aren't aware. The Aggro Crag that the kids get to take home is not the one that you saw in the show, because in the show it was the one they hold in the episode was a very expensive prop, and they weren't going to make a whole bunch of those for the kids to take home. So it very much was a lamp, like a neon lamp in the shape of the Aggro Crag, and it had a little plaque at the bottom that had what they ranked, what season, what show, and it, like Kristen said, it was just a lamp, but it was a really cool lamp. And actually, Moira Quirk, she's got a picture of it. Her profile picture.
We'll pull it up on Splat Attack for you guys so you can see it more in detail.
Yeah, her profile picture is with her trophy, so it's the same one that everyone else got.
Yep, I believe that's the Global Guts trophy too, because it mentioned that at the bottom.
Yeah, I think they finally gave one to her and Mike once the series was coming to an end.
They're the real winners of the show when it comes down to it. Let's see. How would you say Guts and Legends influenced you as a person growing up? Like, I know you're an athletic person, as you mentioned before, but do you think you took anything special from winning those experiences on those Nickelodeon game shows, or did you like watch Nickelodeon more as a result?
I don't know that I don't remember watching Nickelodeon more after. I think there was something that it was probably the same amount that we watched before, which was a lot of it. But I think it boosted my confidence, right? To go on these two game shows that were televised and to win them both and to have, really positive experiences. That was a real boost to my confidence.
That's great.
As it should, because there are people who would love, there's still people who would love to be on those shows. Right. And even watching both, you have those players who they try, and it doesn't go well. And then there's some who just act like they don't even care. I'm here because mom dragged me, but be able to do as well as you've done in both and get the victory for both, it's impressive.
You are a testament to both of those game shows' heart and spirit of competition and integrity.
Yes, very much.
Speaking of Guts and how it affect you, I'm wondering how it affects people today. And I'm kind of curious, do you think that if the show were to come back in some form, that it would be able to influence kids of the 2020s at all?
Oh, boy. Well, my 8-year-old watched the show with me yesterday, I think to review it, and he loved it. So I think he would want to be on that show. And it was also, so I have 3 boys, an 11, an 8, and a 3-year-old, and the 11-year-old loved it too. The 3-year-old, he was like, this is boring. So older. But yeah, I think that it's just it's just a fun competitive game, and who wouldn't want to be a part of that?
Yeah, I certainly love it just for the atmosphere where it feels like, okay, this is track and field, but it's done in a way that's conducive for kids to have fun, not just compete in like that like fierce competition way where feelings get hurt and you break a leg or something, and it just doesn't, it kind of quickly unravels. Like Guts, it always felt like this is about the spirit of the playing sports. This is about teaching good fundamentals, about having healthy competition, and reinforcing values as a result of the experience. And I think it's done that pretty well for all the people who grew up watching it and even competing in it as well.
Yeah. And that's something that you would see, let me rephrase that, that's not something you would see a lot of times with competitive shows, especially nowadays, because they always have those segments where they would be talking to each other, and then they would do those moments where they would talk directly to the audience at home, and it's usually very competitive. I want to get this, I want that. And Guts never really felt like that. Yes, it was a competition between 3 very athletic people, but I don't really recall ever seeing a moment between the games where the 3 they held any kind of animosity between each other. It was usually very jovial, very, way to go, supportive. The peace sign always came up at some point. Even on this episode, at the very end, the red player took both of you by the hands and went for a bow at the very end, which again, not something you really saw a lot of times on the show, but still, I don't see any real anger or frustration. It's just it's a competition. It's meant to be fun, and let's have fun with it.
Yeah,
and good sportsmanship too.
Yes, very much so.
Well, I think it helped too that the hosts weren't trying to make us fight with one another. Yeah. They were just wanting us to each do our best.
Yeah, and they're always attentive to seeing how the kids were doing. Like, hey, that was a pretty rough invisible boat ride that you managed to get through. How did that make you feel? Like, tell us about that.
You took first place in this last event. What was that feeling like?
It was neat. Flying through the waters, walking on the water was really fun.
Now, Amanda, did you find it difficult at all to maneuver yourself in the legs? And what do you find was helping you more, the paddle or your leg movement?
My legs.
They were very interested about the kids, like event to event to event. It was never like, well, Johnny got first place in this and he beat this character by like 2 seconds, so he's awesome. Look at him go. It's just more about like making sure kids are having fun, but also like getting their experiences out there too, because I think that's in line with the Nick is Kids philosophy that was so prevalent in the early to mid 90s of Nickelodeon.
It's been said, but every contestant that's been on the show, they have a little sub name where like it would nicknames. Little nicknames like the Crusher and things like that. And that was stuff that Nickelodeon came up with. I've not heard a person yet say, no, I asked for that name. But one thing that they started to do in the later season, I don't remember if it was season 2 or not. I don't think they put it in 2. I think they started it in 3 in Global Guts, but it was the the video segments. When they would do Spill Your Guts, they would actually have a video interview of the person. Beforehand, it was just Moira Quirk reading a dossier, essentially, of what they what they have done. And they had always said, especially in season 2, for this contestant, guts equals perseverance or what have you. Is that something that they genuinely asked you, or was that also something that they just pulled out of a hat?
Yeah, I don't remember. I wish I did. I know the Cobra part for sure. They gave that to me, but the guts equals competition. I mean, that's me. I mean, whether I came up with it or they did, they nailed it. So, maybe I did play a little role in that. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Kristin Cobra Kerkvliet loves sports. 11-year-old Cobra strikes fear into her opponent's hearts whether she's playing basketball, football, or baseball. For Kristen, guts equals competition.
I always wondered how they came up with the nicknames too. Burden Brian Ingalls comes to mind. Is he really fast that he just blazes across the track field, or if someone called the hammer because they hit the ground hard when they're running, or punching through obstacles? Gets me curious. And also what Alex and my nickname would be if we were to be on the show.
So this episode is very much about guts, but you can say whichever one. Which episode did you enjoy doing the most, Guts or Legends?
Probably Legends. I was a little older, a little more confident, and they just had amazing prizes,
like a box of nerds.
I had to go to Mexico.
That is pretty amazing.
So what I want to do real quick, because we haven't really talked about the episode in general, we just talked about, we gave a quick breeze through for the games that was played, but this was a really close game. Points wise, this was really close. This is one of the closer ones that I've seen, and it was really fun to watch. I know I would have been frustrated as a kid because I was always Team Red. Everything I watched, no matter what it was, I was always red because that was my favorite color. But it was still a super close game, and I would have appreciated that even as a kid. But the first event, Bullseye, for those of you who are listening, this was essentially, because it's Guts, everything is extreme, everything is taken to the nth degree, and there was a target up in the air, and they would have to bungee jump off of the platform with what they said was a crossbow, but it was the Nerf bow and arrow with the Velcro.
When you pull back.
Yes, and whenever they would they jump down to the ground and bounce back up, and then they would try to shoot the arrow onto the target, hit the ground, and bounce back, and then just keep going. They wouldn't reload it. They would just give the bow and arrow out, pick a new one that was loaded, and then jump back down and rinse and repeat. Try to get as many as you can. And for this one, I think it was it was purple. Purple had 8 targets, which was really impressive, and Kristen had 3, Adrian had 2. Do you remember anything about doing that competition at all?
I remember it was really challenging to coordinate my balance, when to shoot it. There's just so many different dynamics of jumping, trying to hit the target where you're supposed to land, to jump, and then at what point do you shoot the arrow? And so I was really impressed with Amanda getting so many right on target. That was really impressive.
Did you feel like you got a rhythm once you started jumping on and off? Because I know bungee jumping was a little bit of a concern when you were getting on the show.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I think if I had another 30 seconds, I would have nailed it.
Brett, what do you think would be easier, doing that or the video game?
I'm going to say that because I actually know how to jump. I don't know if you heard it, Kristen, but we reviewed the Guts SNES video game for episode 21 of Splat Attack, and I gave it an F because it controls horribly. I can't even move the D-pad without like falling on my face and losing all my health bars. So because of my unfortunate experience, I had to give it like one of the very, very few F grades we've given on the show. But that's not to say that the Guts show isn't amazing, because it is.
No,
I'm just saying the video game
great.
experience I had was awful.
The game was it's quite the challenge, but that game
in its own way.
That game essentially is there. I mean, they've changed the it's a football or a basketball or something, but it's the same thing where you jump off, hit the ground, jump back up, and then get your target and rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
But that was the first game. The second one was Free Kick, which was
blocking the soccer balls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where they would be three, all three would have their own goals, and then they would have multiple cannons. I think, was it 2 or more than 2?
I think it was 2.
And it looked like that there was one on left and
side?
right that would shoot. I didn't think they had more than 2, but they would shoot multiple soccer balls at the contestants, and they would have to block as many as they could. And this was another pretty close one, because Amanda in purple, she had 25, which again is a really awesome number. Kristen was so close; she had 22, and Adrian, poor Adrian, she only got 2 targets in the last round, and this one she only got 6 blocks. But she'll redeem herself later.
She'll come back, yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of curious what was going through your head when you had all those soccer balls flying at you, Kristen. Like, if you had a strategy or just kind of reacting to wherever they're flying.
Yeah, pure reaction. Just being ready. And I think playing different sports helped me with my reaction time. So it was fun. But yeah, trying to figure out where the ball was coming from and where I should be prepared to block.
And it was said on the episode when Mike gave his one-on-one interview, what was it like, and the answer was that it's you don't know which one was coming from, so you didn't know how to prepare for it. It was just, again, as you said, very reactionary.
Now, did you find it was difficult to maneuver in yourself in there?
Yes, very difficult. You had to go to one side and the other and figure out who was going to let go of it first.
Which cannon was gonna shoot a soccer ball at you first?
The third event.
Back there.
Okay. I side with Brett. I love Guts, which you all heard in the first half of this episode. But every pool event was super, super rough, and I go back and watching the show, and the moment I heard when they went to commercial break and they were going to go to coming up next is the invisible boat, I went, oh no, they're going to do this one, because that's probably the worst one in my opinion. So for those who don't know what this is there, again, like most of the games, they're attached to a bungee cord, and they're given an oar and a paddle, and they're trying to walk on water essentially, and just use that paddle to push them forward. And
there's also like jet streams of water coming from both sides to make it tougher.
Yes.
Extreme, I should say.
And Kristen was the first one to go, and she really struggled. There was even a talk that Mike was wondering if she was going to have a penalty because she had to have the spotter help her, but Mo had said, no, there's no penalty, but I will say that the spotters had to wait 10 seconds before spotters can help.
She's getting some spotter assistance. She may get a penalty for that.
We have no penalties in this event, but our spotters must wait 10 seconds before they assist.
And yeah, like Kristen had said, she reached the end. She wasn't going anywhere. The legs are going, but she's not moving forward at all. So she just, I wonder if this will work, and chucked the paddle over to the end to hopefully get to the spotter. And then, of course, Mike's going, no, that won't work. That won't work. You got to go. You got to touch. You got to get the touch. Okay, Mike, thank you. But
I think he's just stretching in that case.
he was. And that's what he does. That's what he gets paid to do. Keep the energy going, even whenever there's a lull. But then Adrian and Red went, and
what happened here?
Holy crow! I mean, she completely redeemed herself for the past 2 games because she flew through this 9 seconds.
Yeah,
that was.
I don't even know.
Super
she should be like nicknamed Adrian the Jet Ski because she just flew right across it like it was nothing. Like she had an engine in the back of her invisible boat. I know. I mentioned this in Legends with like the whole Cobra Temple game thing and how the Blue Barracuda Brett like shimmied up it in like 7 seconds. I think this was a new record for invisible boat in that similar regard because of just how fast like they got from point A to point B, and water had no effect on them whatsoever.
Oh yeah, done. Just flew through it. I mean, walking on water so completely. And then Amanda on her run, I think hers was about average. This is usually what I would see on the show, anywhere between 15 to 25 seconds, and she was right in the middle at 21.
Yeah.
So that's pretty standard. But you had already touched on this earlier, but has anyone ever commented? Because I know if I tried this, I know my parents and my dad would have been on my case. Why didn't you just go? Just go. What kind of reactions did you get from friends and family after, in regards to this particular competition?
No, I don't remember any specific ones about that. Just about the overall show. Yeah. But yeah, I'm sure my brothers teased me a little bit, and yeah, without a doubt.
One of the things that I thought was wild that they thought they could make this work is that you're like suspended from like some sort of rack in the air by a bungee cord, and you have to just propel yourself with an oar. And if you don't reach a certain like height so that you can like get down enough and get enough like, I don't know what the word is, but like it makes it easier to paddle the water. I feel like you were like higher up, which made it harder for you to propel yourself forward when I looked at it a couple times. So that's an instance where the bungee cord was kind of working against you, but that's okay because the next event you blew everyone out of the water and into the sand with your long jump at the longest yard. Alex, do you want to tell us more about that event?
Sure. So essentially, it's the long jump, which we've seen on many times. Usually, they would just run to the sand pit, jump, and then the farthest jump you get is the one that's counted. But this is guts, so it's a little more added to it because now we've got the bungee cord. So it's not a run and jump; it's a jump and jump, and you would get 3 attempts. And Kristen's first landing was in the 12-foot range, which is a very respectable start. And usually what I've seen is when they get to the 12 feet mark or a little bit past, that's usually it. So I was thinking, okay, well, that's probably going to be it. And then her next one, she got a little over a foot more in the 13-foot range. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's probably it then. And then on her third jump, she went past 16 feet. And it was so beautiful. Yeah. Because it was the most composed I had seen and you'll see it with the other two when they jump and they're going to get on that landing pad in the sand, they're kicking their feet the entire time. And whenever they land on the ground, they count the foot that is farthest back, not the one that is farthest forward. Mm-hmm. Kristen's technique was so smooth because she had jumped and then kicked to move forward and then put both her feet together and then just raised her knees up until the last possible second and then hit the ground. It was so well done. And I don't know if that one was a record too, but it may have been.
Yeah, I felt like I was watching the Olympics when I witnessed her gracefully go that far. I'm like, yes.
Man. Oh man, it was so cool.
She got practice in the pool so that she can jump farther on land.
And then the others, they stayed right around the 12-foot range. They just couldn't get past. And they really seemed to struggle with the bungee cords. Everyone seemed to struggle with the bungee cords because Kristen on the invisible boat, these two struggled when they were jumping off of the platform to hit the ground in order to go towards the sand, because there was a couple times, especially for Adrienne, she hits the ground and it almost looks like the legs just caved in and came right back up. And then one time, Amanda, it looked like she hit the ground sooner than she was expecting, because the legs kept going, but the body was trying to move, and they struggled a couple of times with that. But it was really, really good. What do you remember at all about doing this one?
Wow. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, I remember watching that specific one on previous shows before I was on. And it was just, I guess that was my perfect size, where the bungee fit me. It was in my favor for that one. But I loved watching my show, and I'm just like, wow, look at those splits. And that was like the form. I don't know how. It's not like I was practicing long jump anytime before that, but it was a lot of fun to do that one.
Did you have any other experience that you feel could have helped you in that particular event? Like, have you done any other types of sports, or perhaps like some sort of like dance activity to help with that?
Yeah, I up to that point, like I had played baseball and basketball, and just I did do a little bit of dance classes, but we didn't have track and field yet where I was, so that was not until high school. But I think I brought some of those skills from Guts to my long jump experience in high school.
But of course, we've got to end the episode with the Aggro Crag, which we had again touched on earlier. So we've got a little bit of Kristen's experience with that. But yes, up to this point, the score was really, really close. So the Aggro Crag was definitely a deciding factor, and Kristen took it home. She got first place, but again, Amanda, who was in purple, she was about halfway up the Aggro Crag, and then the spotters were telling her, "You need to go back. You missed one. Which you can see that the light was not spinning, because every time they hit the actuator, the little siren light will start to turn on and spin, and Kristen got up to the top, and she could have, ordered a pizza by the time the others had gotten up there. She was up there for a bit, just got to enjoy the show. But Adrienne and Amanda, it was really, really close watching them get to the top, because they got to the wall climb about the same time, and then they were really fighting to get up that wall climb, and it was fractions of a second how close the two were, because it was bam bam, and with Amanda in purple just beating out Adrienne, and Kristen taking home the win,
holding up that glorious radical rock.
That had to have been an awesome feeling, though, to hit that actuator or hit the final one.
Oh yeah,
that
was a great feeling. And too, it just I'm just thinking about, like, the thought going is just do your best and have fun. It was just like, oh, I don't know what was happening with the other two, but I'm here. Oh wow, I'm the first one here. This is amazing. So it was a lot of fun. It was a great feeling.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Definitely.
And then, of course, the final end result was Kristen. You can't really see her, but that is her.
Yeah, why is her head cut off?
But I don't know, because the Zoom screen is being a little turned.
Put it this way, her head is over in the Zoom screen and her body is over there. So if you stack them on top of each other like a puzzle, it kind of works.
But Kristen took home the... oh, hang on a second. There's one last thing I got to ask. How short is... I wish. How short is Moira Quirk?
Oh, she is short. Right, none of us are standing next to her, but yeah, she's a shorter person. I'm imagining I may have been taller than her. I don't remember.
You probably were. The only reason I mentioned that is because now going back and watching every episode, poor poor Moira, when she went to put the awards around their neck, she had to have all of them bend down, bend down, bend down. Of course, and yes, they are on a raised platform, but she's done it. She did an interview for podcast The Ride when she was talking about her time at Universal Studios, not just at Guts, mostly at Universal Studios, because she had done a lot with theme parks, and it was actually how she got to be involved with Guts. But she was remarking several times throughout the interview, I'm a very tiny person. I'm a very, very tiny person. And there was a picture that I had found where she's standing next to Mike for some of the interviews that they were doing, and she had to be on a raised platform just to be at least close to his height. So yeah, going and watching this episode, and every episode when it gets to the award ceremony, and watching Moira just come down, and put the awards around their neck, I'm like, yeah, you were tiny. But Kristen won first place, of course, and Amanda in purple was third place, and Adrian second place, and Adrian in red was third.
Did you get to keep your gold medal, Kristen?
I did get to keep it. I don't know where it is, so I may have it somewhere in storage, or it may have gotten lost in a move. But yeah, I do remember we got to keep the medals.
Well, after you won your gold medal, did you did you have any reaction from anyone at school, like the next day after you were on Guts at all, or even Legends when you came back from those experiences?
I cannot remember that part. I was asking my mom, I was like, did they tell us not to say anything until the episode aired? I don't remember it being something we weren't allowed to talk about with friends or anything like that. There wasn't that mass internet communication at the time, so that we would ruin the surprise of the show. But yeah, I'm sure my friends thought it was cool. I wore the medal every day for about a month to school, and it was
like, hey,
just
what's
kidding,
that medal
I did
going
not
on?
do that. But...
I would have. I absolutely would have.
Yeah.
This is your new champion? You will address me by Mr. Guts winner?
This is my get out of homework pass, right?
Yeah.
No, you will address me as Cobra.
I mean, I'm sure you wore the Guts shirt to school, and it made a few heads turn there because, Nickelodeon's pretty popular.
I don't think I wore the Guts shirt to school.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I remember wearing it as a Halloween costume when I was a young adult. And that was pretty cool. Got a lot of, wow, you were on Guts? That's so cool.
Do you ever have anybody that didn't believe you? Where'd you get that shirt? I was on the show. No, you weren't.
No, I didn't get any of that, surprisingly. But yeah, I think I was just a really shy person. And so I don't think it was something I was out, gloating about. I think my friends knew about it and the word probably got around, but it wasn't like, come to school and flaunting my shirt and my medal. I didn't do that until I was older and it was a little cooler. Like, yeah, do you remember that show I was up?
Like the fame has finally sunk in.
Right.
Yeah. Could we get a better look for our viewers?
Sure. Let's see if I can back up a little bit.
So it looks like it has some
awesome.
some orange mesh on the side.
Right, there's some mesh there. But I mean, I must have been swimming in it when I was a kid because it fits me perfect right now.
Wow.
Oh, wow. What are the odds of that? That's great. Thank you for sharing that with us, by the way.
So cool. Yes.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We were geeking out because obviously him and I were both too young to be on Guts and Legends, and that's like one of our bucket list items that we would have completed if we were born earlier. So excuse us if we get a little too excited for you at times.
The question that I had was, of the competition games that you played, which one of them was your favorite?
I think probably either the Aggro Crag or the Bullseye game. Yeah, just really fun. Both of those were fun to do.
Do you have any favorite Guts events in general that you liked from the show, if you watched any other episodes?
Yeah, I think there was the basketball bungee one, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
there
so that
was
was probably it. Basketball was my game.
Very much the same as Bullseye, except it was just a basketball hoop.
Yeah. And then there was a variation of that called Slamma-Jamma, where there was like a weird yellow cylinder in the center, and there's like 3 aerial bridges like in a triangle, and they all had to like bat the basketball in their colored court to see who could get it first. So, they had a few different varieties of different events throughout the tenure of Guts. Like, I know the track and field one where they'd have like people either rollerblade or running or bicycling or do a recumbent bike where they like have to sit down and pedal for like a Mad Max event.
Or moon shoes.
Oh yeah, they had to do that one time.
Yeah, one time.
I don't remember if it was after Guts or after Legends, but they asked me to do a practice run around the lap wearing the moon shoes.
Really?
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
What was that like?
Yeah. I mean, it was fine, but I just remember I remember they asked me to try something, and so maybe they're trying to like test it out for a future show. Probably. But yeah.
Yeah. That there was somebody who stumbled and fell on that one.
Yeah,
the moon shoe relay race was not a good idea.
Yeah, I mean they were very popular in the early '90s, and they looked cool based on the commercials. But I don't know how practical they were, because now that you're saying that, I actually remember wearing moon shoes for my elementary school field day, and we had to do like similar events where we had to like go around cones of partners or like toss rings while like walking across a field, and it was just like, how am I supposed to do this? I mean, I know I'm in first grade, but it's like I have mini pogo sticks on each foot, and I don't know what direction they're going to go next. They can be unpredictable unless you have a strong sense of balance and rhythm from the get-go.
Yeah, a lot of sprained ankles wearing moon shoes.
Yeah, I thought we would go into like favorite overall events of Guts versus just from Kristen's episode as well to wrap things up.
You had actually touched on one, but it was the track and field. I forgot the name of it, but it was the one where they used the little carts and it would go all the way around. They would go up a ramp, and the
Mad Max.
Couple of the tracks were coming apart. Mad Max, and go through a brick wall at the end. Oh, it was so cool. And zero G. I loved Zero G, which essentially was. And for those who don't know, that's essentially a track and field in the air, and they would have to use the bungee cords to essentially be parallel to the ground and go all the way across.
Yeah, they were like 90 degrees,
incredibly,
and go like that.
Very disorienting.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I think I like the high jump, which essentially was the same thing that Kristen had to do with a long jump, where it would be 3 jumps, but they would raise the bar higher every time they would make the jump, and they only got 3. And I don't know. It's simple, and I always like that one. But those are my favorites.
It was interesting to watch for sure. I just remember them standing out because they had that like hazard black and yellow striping on it that looked pretty like extreme, of course. I would say for me, I mean, you already mentioned Zero G and Mad Max. I like those as well, just because they seem very action packed and a lot of fun and outside the normal like realm of sports. I also liked basic training, believe it or not, because I am a big fan of obstacle courses, and that was part of the appeal of me liking Guts and Legends. And it's also like they have a variation of it where sometimes they'll either end with like this big like parachute pillow thing, or you can go down like a water slide into the pool to cool off after without having to do any swimming whatsoever.
Yes.
So that was like, okay, this looks a little safer. I can just chill out here after running through the gauntlet instead of like be drowned by 10-foot waves and this giant ball and jet streams coming at me. So that seemed a little more pleasant.
And now that you say it, yes, basic training was one of my favorites as a kid. I actually got into a lot of trouble over basic training.
How?
Because I would do basic training in the living room. And I used to take all the cushions off the couch, and I'd make a pile over on the floor.
Yep.
I would try to get chairs and stack them in the way, and that would be the elastic jungle. And I'd try to crawl through the things. I'd get on the recliner, and then I would have the legs come out and the head recline, and then I would walk across it so that way it would tip over, and then I'd get off, and then it would flop back over, and now that's usually when Mom would start to, "What's that noise?" And then I'm walking across the I jump onto the couch, stand up, walk across, and jump back onto the pillows for the big pad at the end. And then about that time, Mom would walk in and yell at me, and I'd have to put everything back. And, "Do you know how much this furniture costs?" "Do you know I don't care? I'm only 8.
Also, you're wearing a helmet, so you're thinking about safety first. Can't argue that. Yeah, I was smiling the entire time you said that because I literally did the same thing for both Guts and Legends, particularly Mad Max. I would run around the house, up and down the stairs. I had all the couch cushions lined up so that I can bust through the wall of cushions at the end with my sister if, we were playing together, and going through like up and under different chair configurations and under like the dining room table to mimic the Elastic Jungle. It was so fun to be a kid back then, like both on the show and watching the show, because just something special about the energy of Guts really made you want to be a part of it in some way.
Since we talked about our favorites, I think I know what Kristen's least favorite was. Kristen, do you have a least favorite competition, either to watch and or do?
Yeah, I think it was the invisible boat.
Pool.
Yeah.
Everyone in the pool. That's mine.
I'm kind of curious now that I'm thinking about it. Do you prefer the moat on Legends over the pool on Guts?
Oh, definitely.
Seem more safer to go through.
I second that.
Yeah. Even if there were alligators or piranhas in there, they never bothered anyone.
Well, Brett, shall we go into Think Fast to Make the Grade?
Sounds good to me. We're going to go from the extreme arena to the mental arena with all these trivia questions. So roll the jingle. Time to think fast to make the grade. So question 1 of Think Fast to Make the Grade, Guts edition. This is for 1 point. What is the name of the cube frame obstacle in basic training that slows contestants down more than any other obstacle? Alex?
That was the Elastic Jungle.
That is correct. Yeah, that one would slow many people down because of all these different massive elastics that they had to either crawl through or under. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love basic training, but getting through that, I always wondered if I would survive getting to the other side if I had to go into that thing. So,
yes. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Question 2 for 1 point. How many rounds, excluding the Aggro Crag, do teams compete in events against each other in an episode? Kristen?
4.
You got it. It's 4 plus the Aggro Crag. So we're tied up 1-1. Question 3 for 1 point. What is the full name of the Guts referee commonly referred to by Mike O Malley as Mo? Alex?
Moira Quirk.
You got it. 1 point, Alex.
She had said in that interview on that interview with podcast The Ride that Mike started that. That was not something they made for the show or producers or anyone else. Mike was always trying to get everyone to call her Mo, and she said it never really stuck. Mike was the only one that ever did it. Despite his efforts, still most people just call her Moira.
Interesting, because I only know her as Mo. Of Guts fame.
Yeah, and most 90s kids do, but nope. In her world, it's always been Moira.
Interesting. All right, Alex says 2, Kristen has 1. Still early, so you can still catch up. Question 4, we are now getting into the 2-point question, so this gets a little more interesting and a little more difficult. So question 4, what is the name of the event that requires contestants to run 90 degrees perpendicular to the floor across an obstacle course that wraps around itself? And what season did this event premiere? You get 1 point for each part of that question.
Kristen, any ideas?
Well, I remember you referencing it, the track. one of the track games.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming this was part of Global Guts, but no?
No, it wasn't Global Guts.
Oh, really? I saw it on Global
No, was it?
episode.
Was it Global?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw it in a few of them. But that's not the answer that I'm looking for.
No, it came out in season 3.
Okay.
I forgot if it was on Global Guts. I just remembered it from 3. I think because that's where it came out. That's what I associate with it. But 0G was the name of the competition.
Yep. You got both points, Alex. Question 5 for 2 points. Which one of these events was only featured for one season out of the 4 Guts aired in the 90s? A. Invisible Boat. B. Basic Training. C. Eat My Dust. Or D. Moon Race, which is the one with the moon shoes you were mentioning.
Ooh.
Kristen.
Moon Race.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I have the whole breakdown. Yeah, D, Moon Race. That only lasts for one season. And what I have written that I was just reading was that Invisible Boat lasted all 4 seasons. Basic Training lasted for seasons 1, 2, and 4. And Eat My Dust lasted for seasons 1 and 2. Yeah, I'm like a obsessive nerd. Sorry. So Kristen got 2 points for that. The score is now Kristen 3, Alex 4. Question 6 for 2 points. What is the name of the trophy Guts contestants win along with their gold medal? And what is the nickname Mike O Malley would refer to it as?
Well, the piece of the Aggro Crag, and you would call it the Rock.
Yep. Yeah, the Aggro Crag or the Radical Rock. Yep. You got it.
Yep.
Kristen is now
Take
in the
home
lead
a glowing piece
of the Radical Rock. Kristen now has taken the lead with 4 points. Kristen has taken the lead with 5 points, and Alex now has 4 points. So it's anyone's game for the final 3 questions. Question 7 for 3 points. Now it's getting really tricky, so get ready for this. What are the 3 different names of the final event on Guts? The 3 different iterations, I should say. Alex.
It's I love the 90s because everything was super and extreme and mega and all that stuff. Then Guts fell right into it. So you had the Aggro Crag, and then you had the Mega Crag, and then you had the Super Aggro Crag.
Hell yeah, and they all looked more fiercer than the previous one too.
Yes, they did.
And here's a bonus question that any of you can get that's tied to question 7. How tall is this event reported to be? So how tall is the Aggro Crag?
I don't know.
You can say ballpark if you don't know the exact number.
It's over 20 feet. I know that. I don't think it's over 30, but in between. But still.
Kristen, any guesses?
I'm with you. The same thing. I'd say it's probably around 25. Like, looking at how many stories it might be, but.
Well, you actually both got it because I said ballpark within like 5-10 feet, and the answer is 28 feet tall. Good job. Nice. So you just get a point there, and Alex gets 3. So now it's Kristen with 6 points and Alex with 8. All comes down to the last question. Hands on your buzzers. And I'm going to make this one 5 points instead of 3 to make it more interesting. So for question 8, the final question, Joey Fatone of the boy band NSYNC was known to have appeared as a contestant on an episode of Nick Arcade. Which Backstreet Boy singer appeared as a contestant on Guts in season 1 of the show? What was his team color, and what was his Guts nickname?
You remember who it was, Kristen?
No, I don't even remember who all the boys are in the band.
Kristen, I am so glad. No, I am not a Backstreet Boys fan. I am pure rock and roll fan. So anytime someone mentions anything boy bands or girl bands or anything, I do heavy eye roll. But and my wife is over here going, "Oh, Right. But my wife is, as evidenced by the extreme in the corner, my wife is a huge Backstreet Boys fan. And there's actually a DVD of Nickelodeon Games and Sports. And it had an episode of Guts, 2 episodes of Legends and Double Dare and things like that. But they had this episode on there. And I didn't think anything about it. To me, it was just another episode. And then my wife starts freaking out, going, "Is that AJ? Is that AJ McLean? That's AJ McLean!" And I was like, "Who is AJ McLean?" Said, "You don't know? No, it's a Backstreet Boy." I was like, okay, but obviously it's AJ, and he was on the blue team. And because I've seen this so many times on in the Nickelodeon groups, the screen cap is always shared, but it was AJ Mean McLean. Yeah, it gets shared all the time. Did you guys know that AJ, a Backstreet Boy, was? Yes, I did.
See, I'm not on social media, so I wouldn't have known that unless you told me right now, Alex. But yeah, I figured this would be fun for a final question, so take with it what you will. But yes, you got it. It was a clean sweep. You got 5 points for that. So the final score is now Kristen with 6 points and Alex with a whopping 13. I should have picked a different question, so we wouldn't get that. Good job, Alex. You're no slouch either, Kristen. You got a few good questions in there.
Oh yeah, you did. You did good.
Yeah.
If Megan wasn't such a big Backstreet Boys fan, I never would have known that one. I mean, even with the screen capped as many times as I had seen it, it wouldn't have stuck until my wife starts to beat me over the head with it.
What is it with boy bands going on Nick game shows?
I don't know. I mean,
like a lot of them were also on Disney Channel kid shows too. So I wonder if that is like the right combination of things that mold you into like a boy band group singer.
Well, also, I mean, it kind of makes sense because they're targeting that demographic. So I guess it would make sense for that the game shows would invite them to come be on the show, especially since they're already getting a bunch of boy bands and girl bands and R&B singers and things like that to be featured on a bunch of different Nickelodeon properties. So I can see why they kept making appearances once they became who they were. Right. But prior to, because this is before he was Backstreet Boy, and I think Joey Fatone also, before he was part of the Backstreet Boys, was on NSYNC. It just happened to be that they were on the shows prior to being on their band.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to think about. But yeah, congratulations again to both of our competitors. I'm sorry I don't have any glowing pieces of the Radical Rock or medals to give you, but you have the satisfaction of competing, winning, and being a team player. So with that being said,
I'll buy one from you.
I mean, I'd love one too. Did you know that the Nick box version of the Aggro Crag from the 2016 winter box is going for like $125 on eBay now? And that thing's only like miniature size. Serious? Yeah, it's only like 4 inches tall, and I saw the prices today because I'm like, I wonder if that's a thing.
Gosh.
Yeah, crazy.
And just to tie in with the Nick box, but the old Lena umbrella is super ridiculously expensive too.
Yeah. People go nuts for that stuff once they mature after a certain age.
Yeah.
When it goes from like, oh, I remember that, to super nostalgic. Alex, shall we wrap this episode up?
Yes, let's do. What is our closing question for today?
Our closing question is, if you were to compete on Guts Slimesters, what would your contestant nickname be? You know, we've heard a few different examples throughout this episode, so, you know, DM us on Instagram or email us at Splat Attack Podcast or on YouTube. Email is splatattack2021@gmail.com, by the way. And let us know what your nickname would be and what team color you'd be on. We always love hearing from you. I gave this one a little bit of thought before we recorded our episode, and I decided that I would like to be called Brett Hyperdrive Wilson, since I was known to be fast and agile in high school and also good with tech.
What color?
I would be on the blue team. I love blue as a kid as like my surrogate color to green. Yeah.
And just because they often did something that kind of went with their last name, I can hear Alex Nitro Nance.
Ooh, I like that.
And like everything else, I would want to be Team Red.
Very cool.
But anyway, thank you so very much, Kristen, for coming out and being a part of this. Hope to have you again in a later season for our Legends episode, where we can talk about when you were on that as well.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
Our pleasure.
And again, a big thank you to Viva 90s for giving us the lead on that. So thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And also, if you guys don't follow Viva 90s on Instagram, you should. Awesome profile. Very nostalgic. Check them out.
Definitely. Well, tune in next time as we plunge into the slime tank and take one wild bus ride from school to our second Pete and Pete episode battle, Das Bus versus Yellow Fever. We figured, why not have another back to school special episode like we did with 15 versus Welcome Freshmen from season 1. So you're not going to want to miss all this zany action. And Carl from 90s NickTube on Instagram will be our judge for that. He will be the one passing or flunking us based on our driving skills and how we can handle bus driver Stu throughout the episode. So you don't want to miss that. Show up for next episode as we do that.
Oh, it's gonna be so much fun. I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at this point we're gonna have an episode battle for every season of Pete and Pete because I already figured out one for spring as well. So that's gonna be fun when we get there too. And I think you know which 2 episodes I'm gonna use.
Probably have a hazard a good guess.
Yep. So thank you so much again, Kristen, for joining us for this episode. And I think before we head out to Nickelodeon Studios, I'm gonna give a quick climb up the Aggro Crag just for fun before they disassemble it. Because they gotta break it down and take the Aggro Crag on tour. So while I go do that, Alex, will you drain the slime tank for us, please?
Aye, Co-Captain. And remember last episode, they chased me around, so be careful. I think there's a temple guard from Legends who's following you.
What? I was just kidding about that. I didn't think he would follow us into this episode, but I guess since I talked about Legends, he heard about it, and now I gotta watch my back. Oh, wait. I think I see him over there. Alex, help me. I need a pendant of light, quick. Give me one. He's coming at me really fast. Spot you later, slime stars.
Reprise the theme song and roll the credits.
Hard to believe, folks, but it's time to say goodbye.
Nighty-night.
Hey, check us out next time for more adventure and another great legend of the Hidden Temple.
What'll we do till then?
Chill for a couple. We'll be back. You're on Nick.
And it was time for the superhero to move on.
I declare this meeting of the Midnight Society closed.
Bye-bye.
It takes a certain kind of person to get the body working to the level of precision that's needed to be risen to the top. Do you have it? It takes a certain kind of something to keep the heart pumping, something everybody needs to achieve to succeed. You'll need a lot. Do you have it?
Do you have it?